Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here this morning to finish up my series on the ninth chapter of the Gospel of John, who is Jesus. Just as a recap, we've talked this week about how this man who was born blind was made to see, and then how the Pharisees questioned him and questioned him, questioned the parents. And finally, they threw him out because they said he was trying to convert them. All the time, he was just saying, Look, I don't know what happened. Sometimes God works and we don't know what happens. It just worked. Something changed. And that's okay because, God can do whatever he wants to do. We can't really tell him what to do, though I think sometimes many of us try. The notion that somehow God cares enough to reach down into our world and work in our midst is an amazing thought. And this story is an example of that amazing thought and action. And today, something even more special, I think, shows up. So let's look at verses 35 to 39 in John chapter 9. Here's what we read. When Jesus heard what had happened to the man, he found him and asked, Do you believe in the Son of Man? The man answered, Who is he, sir? I want to believe in him. Jesus said, You've seen him, and he's speaking to you now. And the man said, Yes, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped Jesus. Then Jesus told him, I entered this world to render judgment, to give sight to the blind, and to show those who think they see that they are blind. Well, the first thing that stands out in these verses, which I think is so important in our lives, it says, when Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man. This poor guy, he didn't do anything. He was sitting there blind as a bat, and Jesus healed him, and then he gets into trouble. The religious leaders go after him. People around him ridicule him. All he did was get healed. And everything that happened after that wasn't his fault. So what do we see here? Jesus, it says, went and found him. Now, Jesus didn't have to do that. He could, I'm sure he was busy. My goodness, if you and I are busy, imagine what the Son of God was in his day. Gee, incredible. But he took the time to go back and find this guy because he wanted him to know that he wasn't alone in all of the goofiness that happened afterward, and that it wasn't his fault. Jesus comes and finds you and me in the midst of our goofiness and in the midst of what we think is our fault when it isn't. Jesus takes the time because he is a caring person when he walked on the earth, and he shows the compassion of God for you and for me. So he finds him and he says, Do you believe in the Son of Man? Now, the Son of Man was a title from the Old Testament who was equal to the Messiah, the anointed one who was coming. And the man who obviously had some religious training, he said, Who is he? I want to believe in him. What we see here is a man whose life, his eyesight was changed. But more than that was changed. He recognized in the healing of his eyes that something far greater was going on, and he was changed. He's a different person. Now, when God works a miracle in our life, or when he's worked one in yours, whether you recognized it or not, did you become a changed person, or did you just sort of brush it off, or you just sort of forget it and go back to your regular life? This man did not do that. He says, I want to know who he is. Tell me who he is. And Jesus said, you've seen him. In fact, you're talking to him right now. Wow. The Son of Man, which is a title for the Savior to come into the world, the Messiah to change the world, is standing right in front of this guy. Now, after all he's been through, you could expect him to say, "Oh, come on, please don't tell me something else like this. This is going to make my life miserable." But he doesn't. He says, "I believe you are God," and it worships him. God works miracles in our lives, not for the sake of working miracles. He's not some kind of frivolous God who helps this person and ignores that person. He doesn't just sort of arbitrarily say, I think I'll do something good today. He's forever looking for ways and places to work in our lives to change them. It's so sad that so many people experience the hand of God and then turn around and walk away. They brush it off. They explain it away. They come up with some other explanation. Well, it was really this and that. And God, well, sounds kind of dumb to say this, but God in his goodness and grace allows us to do that. He won't force himself on anybody, just like Jesus did not force himself on this man. And when the man was given a chance to make a choice, to decide who he was dealing with, he accepted the gifts and the grace of God and he worshiped him. And then Jesus said this, which, you know, this is as true today as it was when he said it to this blind man. I've entered the world to render judgment, to give sight to the blind, and show those who think they see that they are blind. Has Jesus given you sight yet? I don't mean physical sight. I mean, that may have happened. If it did, I'll just shout for joy. I don't have a bit of a problem with the fact that God can do that. And if he does do it, fantastic. But has he opened your eyes to see him on an everyday basis? Do you see him when you walk around the block, when you go to work, when you go to the grocery store? Do you see God in your midst every day? Or are you just blind and going about your business as if he isn't there? Now, I'm not talking about someone walking around with their head in the clouds. I'm just talking about someone who sees God at work every day because God is at work every day. This blind man got it. I hope you do too. Well, thanks so much for listening. It's a holiday weekend this time, and by golly, I hope you have a great one. Weather's supposed to be terrific. Well, actually, I'm ahead of myself. It's not a holiday weekend. I forget. Sometimes I make these in advance. So you'll have to forgive me. It's an after the holiday weekend, but it's still a great time to see God at work. Thanks so much for listening. If you have a need or a concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Take care of yourself. Be safe. I'll be back again come Monday.